Anyway, they built all those pyramids. Chapter 34, October 14, 2100 AD. Jennifer, are you ready? McGrant asked. Coming, she called. She scurried down the path toward McGrant. She soon reached him, panting. She was out of breath, even though the path to McGrant was downhill. Ready? McGrant asked. She nodded in the affirmative. Here goes everyone, McGrant said. There were several workers, a TV crew from New Los Angeles, California, and 4 security guards. I would like to thank Judge Dressad for authorizing the order, Senator Pornical for using his influence to gain approval, Professor Coldern for his guidance, Vice President Wilkin for her support, and KLAX for covering our event. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Pyramid of Enoch. With that, he used his crowbar and began to slowly pry open the huge steel door. The passageway was about 8 feet high and appeared long and dark. Anticipating this, McGrant and Jennifer were fitted with xenon headlamps. Once properly directed, the headlamps shone down the corridor that McGrant estimated to be several hundred feet long, slanted upward at a fairly steep angle. Each of them also were fitted with video cameras on their goggles so that the world could follow them along. What surprised Jennifer was that there was no dust on the floor. Everything was spotless. They began their ascent, Jennifer in the lead. The video headsets were running, and as they reached what McGrant estimated to be a 100-foot mark of their journey, the entire corridor suddenly lit up with a light so brilliant they both had to shield their eyes. It blinded the TV cameras, so the director, through their earpieces, had Jennifer and McGrant stop while the video camera filters were adjusted. They then continued on up the corridor. After a few minutes, they both began to see the end of the corridor in the distance. They soon reached it and saw that there was another door blocking the corridor. As Jennifer reached out to touch it, it began to spontaneously open. Once it was fully open, Jennifer cautiously stepped inside and nearly fainted as she stared at the spectacular scene before her. She gazed up at a spectacular chapel, the likes of which she nor anyone else on earth had ever seen. It was replete with a high vaulted ceiling, crystal pews, a jewel-covered altar, and wine and fresh bread ready for communion. McGrant, right behind her, could not speak, but nudged her forward. The cameras continued to roll as the two surveyed the chapel. It was the most beautiful chapel they had ever seen, and the beauty essentially hypnotized them. The ceiling reached to the peak of the 1,000-foot-high pyramid, NOC, the pyramid they had excavated. They stared at the 300-foot peak, a sunroof lighting the entire chapel. Their hypnotic trance now began to fade as they regained their bearings. The court order had allowed only these 2 archaeologists to enter the pyramid door, so they were alone. I think I know the answer, Jennifer said to McGrant, who was aiming his head around the chapel in every direction so that the camera and thus the viewing public could see everything Jennifer and he were seeing. You do? Grant said. Yes, Jennifer replied. Go ahead, tell the world, baby, McGrant said, gesturing around the chapel. She was disgusted that he called her baby in front of billions of people, but she cleared her parched throat and said, Ladies and gentlemen, the reason man and woman always want to build pyramids is not to build tombs, but to worship their gods. Here is the first proof of this. I invite all the world to look around this chapel and see for themselves. She slowly panned her head around the chapel, noting the massive vaulted ceiling, the altar, the pipe organ at the rear, and the choir. It appeared all to be constructed of gold, and she pointed this out to the viewers. We will now proceed forward to the altar. Both advanced toward the magnificent altar, and both of their eyes focused on the multi-jeweled scepter. These diamonds on this scepter are easily 2,000 carats each. Per our agreement, we will remove 1 artifact for display in the Smithsonian Museum. Do you think this would be the appropriate artifact, McGrant? She asked. I do, he said as he continued to gaze around the chapel in awe. The TV director indicated through their earpieces that her half hour of time was nearly over. They would have to wrap up the show in 2 minutes.